This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
U.S. refiners imported about 1.3 million barrels per day, BPD, of crude and fuel oil from Latin America in April, the highest in 7 months according to U.S. Customs data, as buyers began replacing Russian supplies. The United States in March banned imports of Russian crude and refined products over its invasion of Ukraine, setting April 22 as end date for purchases. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen urged companies to adopt friend-shoring supply networks, or buying from trusted countries. Russia supplied about 135,000 barrels of oil per day, or 5.5% of total U.S. crude imports last year, and 155,350 barrels of oil per day, or 29%, of fuel oil imports, according to customs data on Refinitiv Icon. Russian crude imports touched a record high in 2021 after hurricanes disrupted production, data from Energy Information Administration.
Half of Russian gas giant Gazprom's 54 clients have opened accounts at Gazprombank, Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak said on Thursday, as European companies approach imminent payment deadlines. Companies in the European Union have been trying to confirm for weeks how they can legally buy Russian gas, after Moscow demanded foreign buyers start paying in rubles and cut gas supplies to Bulgaria and Poland last month after they refused to do so. Russia has said foreign companies need to open 2 accounts to comply with its new payment mechanism, one for foreign currency, and one for rubles, and European companies need to complete any currency conversion within 48 hours.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Iran's crude exports to China have fallen sharply since the start of the Ukraine war as Beijing favored heavily discounted Russian barrels, leaving almost 40 million barrels of Iranian oil stored on tankers at sea in Asia and seeking buyers. US and European sanctions imposed over Moscow's invasion of Ukraine on February 24 have pushed more Russian crude east, where China has snapped it up, cutting demand for oil from Iran and Venezuela, which are also both under Western sanctions. About 20 vessels with oil from Iran were at anchor near Singapore as of mid-May, shippers' data showed.
Oil prices rebounded from earlier losses on Thursday as Chinese officials plan to ease restrictions in Shanghai, which could further tighten global energy supply, and as the dollar retreated from recent gains. Brent crude futures for July rose 92 cents, or 0.8%, to $110.03 by 11:33 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 15:33 GMT, after hitting a session low of $105.75. U.S. West Texas Intermediate, WTI, crude futures for June rose 32 cents to $109.91, after dropping to $105.13 earlier. In China, investors are closely watching plans to ease coronavirus curbs from June 1 in the most populous city of Shanghai, which could lead to a rebound in oil demand from the world's top crude importer. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Copper prices rebounded on Thursday as the prospect of lockdowns being lifted in top metals consumer China buoyed sentiment despite worries about weaker global growth. Nickel jumped as much as 11%, largely due to short covering amid thin volumes, traders said. Benchmark 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange, LME, was up 2.1% to $9,429.50 a ton at 16:15 GMT after dropping 1.4% in the previous session. More Shanghai residents were given the freedom to go out to shop for groceries for the first time in nearly 2 months on Thursday as authorities set out further plans for exiting the city-wide COVID-19 lockdown.
Gold rose over 1.5% on Thursday as a slide in the dollar and Treasury yields burnished bullion's safe haven appeal after weak U.S. jobs numbers compounded economic concerns. Spot gold jumped 1.4% to $1,841.59 per ounce by 10:34 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 14:34 GMT, while U.S. gold futures rose 1.4% to $1,842.10. Gold prices dropped to a near 4-month low earlier on Monday and are up about 3% since the dollar backtracked from 20 years highs.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
India is likely to harvest 106.41 million tons of wheat in 2022, nearly 4.4% lower than the previous estimate, the Farm Ministry said on Thursday, as a sudden rise in temperatures during the grain maturity stage slashed yields. The world's second biggest wheat producer was earlier projected to harvest a record 111.32 million tons this year. The reduction in output and more than 50% drop in government procurement prompted New Delhi to ban wheat exports on Saturday. Traders are estimating wheat output could fall to around 100 million tons in 2022 based on lower supplies in spot markets.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.